Welcome to the Whole Couple Podcast, the space where entrepreneurial couples come to build thriving businesses and marriages.
We are your hosts, Dana and Adam, a couple who knows firsthand what it takes to grow a business while keeping love, connection, and purpose at the center of it all.
If you've ever wondered how to pursue your dreams together without sacrificing your relationships, you're in the right spot.
Each month, we're going to share stories, strategies, and real conversations with millionaire couples to help you navigate the highs and lows of being in the business with the person that you love most.
So, whether you're just starting out or scaling to new heights, we're here to guide and inspire you to create a life and business you love together. This is the Whole Couples Podcast. Let's dive in.
Today, we are super excited. This was the couple that we most wanted to interview and first wanted to interview.
Yes.
So welcome to our dear friends and mentors, Jimmy and Linda McKissacks. Thank you all so much for coming on.
Yes,
our pleasure. Happy to be here.
Super excited that you guys are here. This is gonna be a lot of fun.
Very valuable for everyone. We know that so much. We have learned so much from you all and had the blessing of being really mentored and just, as John Maxwell has taught us, truthfully, the power of proximity. Mm-hmm. And us having that with you all has just, it's been so impactful in so many different ways,
Absolutely. I think Linda, I knew Linda 16 years ago. I've known Linda for 16 years. No, wait a minute. Let's see. Yeah, 16 years. 2009, Linda. 16 years.
Like a blink of an eye.
For sure. I think I had a hair back there when we knew each other back then.
That's come a long way.
Yes, really.
That's right. Well, okay, so let's just start real quick. For those of the listeners that may not know you, just give a little bit of background, just real quick.
Okay. So our background is we met in the early 80s? No.
Yeah, we got married in 1982.
Okay, so somewhere in the early 80s. Both been married before, and both had a child by previous marriage. And then Jimmy and I met, and we got married. And he was in the restaurant and nightclub business. And I always like to say, usually the worst thing that happens to you will wind up being the biggest blessing. And the economy crashed in Texas, and we had to sell a kind of a billiards type place, a mini type Dave and Buster's, if you will, for $600,000 less than we owed against it. And that catapulted us into a wealth building journey and into a real estate as a vehicle to build cash flow journey, and ultimately led us to amazing people like you guys.
Love it.
Did you all know in the beginning, this was not one of the preset questions. Sorry, I'm already not following the rules. Did you know in the beginning of your relationship that you could work together, do you think?
Well, not really, because, I mean, I worked for him at his nightclubs, and we struggled a little bit when we first started trying to work together.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, it was kind of tough because she didn't know what my strong suits were. I didn't know really what her strong suits were. Yeah. And so we really had to figure out, what were the things that each one of us was really good at. And then we had to learn how to not try to change the other person.
Yeah. Well, I think when you have a bigger model that you're following, that helps keep that out. But we had no clue what we were doing. So, when you're going so fast and you don't really have a model that you're following, you tend to get on each other's nerves because you're trying to tell the other person what they should be good at. And that's not the way to do it. They are good at certain things and you're good at certain things.
And this is really a learned skill.
Yeah.
How to communicate and learning how to work together and live together. It's not a natural thing.
Yeah.
So it's not just, we woke up one day and decided we were going to do it. We really spent a lot of time, effort, energy, and money on mentors and people that taught us along the way the pitfalls of, what are the good things and the bad things.
Yeah.
What would you say when it came time to lead? Right. When it came time to lead, how did y'all decide in the very beginning who was going to lead and how were they going to lead and how was the other person going to follow? Because you're both alphas.
You'll give my answer?
Okay.
Jimmy's leading.
Well, Dr. Fred Gross, after we worked with a business psychotherapist named Dr. Fred Gross, and at the time, whenever I lost that business and we were $600,000 in debt, and I was crying in my beer for a year trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, because I was really only qualified to run a nightclub, and that paid about $500 a week. And at that time, and I was 600 grand in debt, so 500 a week wasn't going to get that paid off. And
Mm.
so Linda had already started her real estate practice and was successful at what she was doing. And so Dr. Fred, we had one of our one-on-one sessions, and Dr. Fred really told us that he said, Jimmy, he said, who's been in the business the longest? And I said, Linda. I said, who knows more about the business? I said, Linda. And he said, well, you need to get over yourself and
Mm.
boss now. And so that's kind of how it started out, as Linda was really leading the pack in the real estate deal. And then we got together and we found out what both of our strengths were. And both of us had the ability to do dollar productive, income producing things. And so we really focused on those things.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I think
running.
too, I just remember a pastor we had years ago named Tommy Nelson, and he was probably one of his greatest lessons that he went around the country teaching was the Song of Solomon. And
Mhm.
Mm.
in that lesson, he would say things, and even our pastor today will say things like, what does he say about a nagging wife? You're better off to go live somewhere else or do
Yeah.
something else. I don't know, whatever it is. Yeah, but I always try to think about their lessons, and because we are both kind of alpha a little bit, we do have those moments when we struggle. But I
Mhm.
think learn to like one of the things I had to learn is, you have to, what is his area that I need to let him be the person that really makes the ultimate decision? I can be a voice and kind of hopefully help him think about a certain things. But when it comes to
Mhm.
like our investment deals and stuff, I'm
Mhm.
clear he's going to take the lead on that because I feel most confident that's his strength. That's what he's doing. And I think just along the way, when both of you are drivers, we were both married to somebody who weren't drivers,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
it's worse
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
we were miserable because not only were they not drivers, but at least, sometimes they would not want you to be a driver, try to
Right.
change who you were. And that we weren't doing that to each other. So we knew it was better than for us to be married to opposites because it was a constant struggle when we were.
Yeah, we do. I mean, if we were opposites, we both had opposites for spouses the first time,
Yeah.
and it didn't work out well for either one of us. And so this time, with both of us being similar to our goals and what we're looking for out of life, it worked out.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think I always try to think, because at different times one of you is going to be more, successful at something than the other. Just learn, trying to learn to be respectful of their strengths and what they are, and you kind of have to remind yourself when you're a driver yourself because you're going towards your goals, but always just remember, love and respect. Men want respect, women want love, right? So
Mhm.
just make sure that am I being respectful or am I not being respectful? And I'll catch myself at times 40, we'll be celebrating 43 years in January.
Wow.
Wow.
I'll catch myself saying, wow, I don't think that was very respectful, or something. So I think
Mm.
you have to kind of have those little voices in your head, whether they're mentors or couples
Yeah.
or been married longer, your pastor, somebody, because I think naturally we're all selfish humans.
And what
Yeah.
Linda's saying is so true because, like last week, I was in Branson and I was looking at a business deal in Branson. It was going to be buying a couple of resorts that were side by side, and they were going to be big enough to scale. And I thought I had it figured out how it could work, and it's about a $3 million plus deal. And
Mm.
so, and Linda in the past, I don't think she would have wanted me to go out and invest $3 million or take a risk on $3 million worth of our money and feel real confident about it. But she left the door open, and you do whatever you want to do. If you think we need to do it, do it. And so we ended up not doing the deal, but it was just it was a good eye-opening experience to go out there and have that opportunity.
And
That's
Mhm.
really good.
afraid he's going to make the wrong decision, I'll say, well, what would Gary Keller do?
Mhm.
I hate that one.
Or what would our pastor do? Or what would Dr. Fred do? I'll try to pull in a few voices from his past.
That's good.
That works sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Do y'all have any habits that you've put in place over the years that really have helped you grow together as a couple?
I think just being learning based,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we have spent
Yeah.
so many time in classrooms and in front of very wealthy people, very successful people together in that setting, and learn from a lot of great people together. And so I think the biggest thing is just continuing to grow and continuing to learn. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm 73 years old now, and I still get excited. There's a new little book that Linda got for me.
I buy the books that I think he should
For
read
me,
because
and
I want what you say, but I don't necessarily want to read
started
them.
reading it this morning and stuff, and got real excited about the book called Main Street Millionaire by Cody Sanchez.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
Cody's incredible.
the main thing is to always be more ambitious, and we both are. And so just trying to always keep that going. Well, sometimes we look around and think, gosh, we probably do more in a week than some people do in months period of time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know where we're headed. We know what things work. Sometimes we don't always make the right decision, but we are always moving forward. And I think sometimes and sometimes people just stop, they get complacent. And I don't think complacency is a fun place for anything, whether it's your
Mm-mm.
marriage, your money, or your family or anything. So I think just constantly moving and both being looking for how do we always be more ambitious, and how do we always make our future brighter than what we came from? And we came from a very bright past, most of it.
Yeah.
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 Well, one thing I've just always learned from you all and loved so much about you, and I tell this to everybody when I talk about the two of you, is that you still go to stuff and
Yeah.
you still learn and
And still take notes.
and you still
yeah.
take notes, both of y'all, and get your notebooks out and your pens.
Mhm.
And even though sometimes you may do stuff separately, like you're still doing stuff together too, or you're
Mhm.
coming back and like Linda, you're probably telling him what you got, and Jimmy, you're probably like, here's what I got from this Cody book. I mean,
Right.
you really are still learning and growing together. And I think sometimes in relationships, when one person is doing that and the other person is
Is not.
not, then they tend to get left behind. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. We've seen that time and time again in relationships over the
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, for sure. Growth is super important.
And growing apart, if you're not really careful and you're not purposeful about what you're doing, you can grow apart very easily.
What would you say to listeners that maybe one spouse isn't as learning based as the other, though wants to be there and support the other person so that the gap doesn't get created? What would you suggest to those types of couples?
I see a lot of those. Like I do a program called Strategic Coach, and
Mm-hmm.
done multiple other entrepreneurial programs. And I feel and hear that a lot. And typically it's from the male spouses, because quite honestly, we're still very few women in those groups. We need
Right.
to change it, but there's still very few women in those groups. But I see it as kind of a hard spot. I think the main thing is, I don't think Jimmy and I are always at the same place on certain things, but neither one of us is trying to hold the other one back. And I think that's the key. When one becomes the brake and the other's the gas, that's when it's a problem. I don't know that, I don't know that as long as you're not holding them back, Gary said something years ago, because Jimmy's a little bit more of a risk taker than I am. And even though we didn't do this, I think some of the couples that we meet in the entrepreneurial groups, this would be a good idea, is to find out what that one spouse is afraid of to take risk in building wealth. Get that satisfied. How much money would they have to have in the bank? How much money would they have to have in reserve? And
Yeah.
then once that happens, now we can go and invest and do other things, because I see a lot of couples making big mistakes on wealth building because one spouse is afraid to take those risks and the other ones want to. And so you've got to come up with a way to solve that. And there's a reason that one spouse doesn't want to do it. It's usually because they're more security minded and
Right.
Mm-hmm.
they have more money in the bank before they feel comfortable risking any.
Yeah.
That's good.
Whenever you're financially in trouble, the risk is a lot larger than just finances.
Mm-hmm.
When your life is messed up financially, and you can barely get by or you're not getting by, your relationship's not good.
Yeah.
I don't care where the relationship's at, it's not good. And so
Yeah.
there's a lot more to having financial freedom and being financially, fit than just the money part of it.
Yeah.
Sure.
This is going a little bit out of order on the questions, but since we talked about mistakes, can y'all think of a mistake that you made early on that maybe you wish other couples could avoid, or a lesson that they could learn from it?
Yeah, I can think of one Linda did with me.
Well, I made with you. God, here we go.
Linda and I had this unique problem of both of us disliking the same things.
Mm.
Beginning, whenever I joined her in real estate, she tried to make me do all the stuff that I didn't want to do, and I tried to make her do all the stuff that I didn't like to do. Both didn't like the same stuff.
Yeah.
And so, that was a mistake. And there was a lot of lessons that we learned out of that, and the fact that we had to really learn out what was the unique ability both of us had.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how are we able to leverage that unique ability into the financial and the real estate world?
Yeah, and I would say the mistake I would say is I hope no one has to go. I think everyone should wake up and realize that it's okay, it's possible, and it's important to want more in your life, more
Yeah.
in whatever area, and especially in your wealth area. And I don't think you should wait till a financial crisis like we did. You should become aware of that and just start working. Is where we need more. Do we need
Yeah.
more
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
freedom of our time? Do we need more different relationships? Do we need more wealth so that we can, when life brings you some of those situations, you're in a better situation for it?
Yeah, and there's never more joy at this stage of the game for us, for Linda and I, to be able to write checks.
Yeah.
And I mean, that sounds kind of cliche-ish and everything, but being able to write checks to people or to things or to organizations that are really important to you and that have helped you along the way at this stage of life, it's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that so much. I love that. Okay, that actually kind of goes to one of the next questions, which is, what's your vision for your legacy
Oh, yeah.
as a couple, or what we would say a couplepreneur, and how are you actively working towards it? You'll do so much stuff.
Well, first of all, before we answer that question specifically, what is y'all's definition of your legacy?
Yeah. I think, some for me, a legacy is whatever I spent my calling on doing. Is that area or those people better off than they were when I was not there, right?
Yeah.
And so I think a legacy for sure for me is to help change, do whatever small part I can in the real estate world to have real estate agents have better lives, more wealth, more freedom, more options than they did when I got in the business. And for our kids, for the ones that will listen and learn our lessons, certainly we want to pass those on to them.
Yeah.
And then our grandkids, hopefully give them a little bit of lessons and knowledge that we would have liked to have had at their age.
Came from very, very dysfunctional families and very, very dysfunctional families. And I guess my legacy would be that Linda and I were the ones that broke the chain in our family.
Yeah, I love that.
We were able to be the ones that made the difference, that did things that other people in our family didn't do, that we were able to help more, be involved with more people, and be the person and the legacy going forward that would cause our family to never be back in that situation again.
Yeah,
that's
so
good.
good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Jimmy, interestingly enough, when you say that, I think people, and Linda and I have talked about this before, but people who come from dysfunction kind of go one way or the other.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to watch. It's like they either continue repeating the same cycle over and over and over again, or they do break it and they break through it, and it's the difference maker for their future generations to come. And I don't know what the differences of, what it's, whether it's God or
Just
what, but
the hardwire. Yeah.
yeah,
I see such a
Mhm.
bright future for our family and for generations to come. You
yeah,
know,
Yeah.
I didn't see that vision 30 years ago.
yeah,
So that vision is so different today than it was where my thinking was back then.
yeah,
Well,
So,
you know what's so neat to watch you guys and learn from you guys, and I like to watch historical movies and history movies, and even sometimes go all the way back over the Europe days. And back then, the kings and queens, mostly the kings, they built for legacy, right? They built for the next generation, and everything was based on what was going to be given down to the next generation. And that's what Dan and I both can say, that we love watching you guys, because what you've been building is going to be generational.
yeah,
and generational doesn't necessarily mean money.
Right.
Generational means thinking. It means
Values.
different values that you carry for generations, different
Mhm.
traditions that you put forth in your family that carry
Right.
on, when you're not there anymore.
yeah.
Those things. So it's not always just money, that carries on. And so I think that's kind of something you get as you get older.
Mhm.
I recently shared this with Linda, but I don't even know if I told you this actually, but one of the things that John Maxwell just was talking to one of our mentorship groups about was that when he wants to spend all of his money before he dies, and that he basically, like, he and his kids know, he said he's told his kids, like, I've helped you and set you up for success. I helped you get a college education. I helped you get your first home, your home that you're in. I've helped you build wealth in this way and this way. And so he said that he wants to choose where his wealth is going to go and what it's going to impact. And at first, everybody on the call was kind of like, whoa, that's kind of brave and bold. But then after I really thought about that for a minute, I thought, man, that's kind of nice,
Sure.
because he has set his family up with all those other things that you just said, Jimmy, so that they can go and continue to have a great life and not just get a big check.
Right.
And if you're gonna do those things, wouldn't you like to do it more while you're alive?
Yes, that's what he
Exactly.
said.
Well,
Yeah.
and also the statistics are just staggering when you get into the area where you start looking at what happens when people
Yep.
just generations money.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
not pretty. It's ugly.
No.
And honestly, it's a hard place to get in your life because, depending on who your advisors are and then the people you listen to, most of it, I think your family and my family both got inheritance and it never went anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So same. So did.
Both
Yeah.
of them probably.
Well, not very much, but still. But you know what
But
I'm
it was
saying?
more than most people got.
Right. And so I think you got to be careful because
Yeah.
I've watched kids who think they're entitled to something and it's
Yep.
not very attractive, to be honest with you. It's just
No.
gross. And I feel like you kind of clip their wings a little bit in the fact that they never learn their purpose and their calling and what their unique abilities are and those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
totally agree. Yep. Okay. Before we get into the wealth building question, which is what what I know people will really want to learn from you. I've heard you talk a little bit about this before, but how do you set boundaries so that you have, you're not talking about work all the time or, I mean, what's been helpful for y'all? I know in the past, I'm hoping you'll talk a little bit about the channels, TV channels, but then anything else too.
Dr. Fred Gross he's the one that taught us the concept of channeling. And we were two of the worst realtors about that. Period. Came home, we didn't stop till probably 10 o'clock at night discussing everything that happened today. And every time Linda and I would talk to each other, our octave would go up about
Way
10 decibels. So our kids would think we were actually fighting or arguing whenever we were just excited or we were talking at a high level.
Or frustrated or whatever we were.
Yeah, whatever the situation was. But, Dr. Fred, he was really, really good about that. And if you read his book, A Black Belt of the Mind,
Mm.
there's a thing called channeling in there. And he had we had a business channel, we had a home channel, we had a fun channel, I had a dad channel, Linda had a mama channel.
Yeah.
And he said, your mind works like a television set.
Mm.
wherever you're at, you can switch it to whatever channel you're really on. He said your most productive things are if you want to be at home, at work, and at the office, be on the office channel. Go in there and be as productive as you can be, and stay there and stay out of the other minutia, and stay focused on what you're doing. And when you're at home and you want to be the best dad and the best husband you can be on your, your family channel.
Yeah.
And we learned to do that. We actually even we used our work channel, I think it was channel 37, and we actually put on top of our computers channel 37 and had it taped to the top of our computer so that we would remind our brain to switch channels and be on that channel when we were at home. And then over our door, whenever we would go home, it would channel 99, which was a home channel,
Love
and
that.
but after you do it for a while, you just, it works.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, we've done it for so long. We don't do that as much now, but occasionally one of us will start to bring something up and we'll just say, I don't want to talk about that right now.
Yeah.
Because we know that really what that means is I'm over here laying awake at night about it. And I think I would like to feel better if you were over there laying awake at night thinking about it too.
But I'll tell you one thing, Linda's learned things. She said, I do not stay up at night worrying about people that aren't staying up worrying about me anymore.
Yeah.
So
just
true.
one philosophy and sitting around there and think about the people or things that have caused you such heartache and so many nights of non-sleeping and stuff. And while that other person is,
Yeah.
talking about sleep, baby over there.
Sure.
It was so right. It was just a great statement.
Yeah.
We've had to really learn not to bring something up before bed.
Oh, yes.
Because then one of us is laying awake all night thinking about it. So I'll be like,
It's
no,
usually
don't
me.
talk. Don't
Yes.
talk.
'Cause we've got the rock over here when it comes to sleeping.
Depends on the topic.
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned it before in the beginning about going from, $600,000 in debt to the high net worth that you have today. But what advice would you give to a couple looking to really 10x their wealth? Like no matter what space they're in, are there any just basic principles that you would share?
Well, I think you have to understand what few ways there are actually to build wealth. And I think you have to pick one of those paths and then know it well enough that you're truly an investor in it. You're not a speculator. And those are two different things. And then give yourself a timeline to get all that done and then figure out whose strengths is what as far as obtaining those goals and then get busy doing that. But I think you got to be clear about which path you're going to take first.
Yeah.
And wealth building is really a two-sorted strategy. It's number one, it's cash flow. Getting in businesses that can generate enough cash flow to where you can set some of that aside and invest it to build wealth long term. The other strategy is becoming wealthy is a thing that's over time.
Yeah.
And the best advice I could give anyone would be to start as early as you can with some appreciating assets and get in the way of the money, of the wealth.
Yeah.
Doing that is go out there and get you a couple of those and then work as hard as you can to get those paid off as quick as possible. If you can get one or two of those assets paid off, then all of a sudden this thing starts getting a lot easier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Being very over leveraged while you're building wealth, unless you have a very strong cash flow business out there, it's risky.
Yeah.
And so you want to, you really want to focus on the cash flow first, and then you've got to focus on the discipline enough to put some money away and invest it in an appreciating asset that you're comfortable with. And Linda talked about, there's basically three ways to build wealth. You're going to do it through the stock market, through real estate, or through owning businesses. The highest rate of return is owning businesses. Being a business owner is the highest rate of return. I was running some numbers here a few months back on market centers and looking at market centers. I mean, they're hard. There's people involved.
Mhm.
There's things like that. But whenever I still look back at my market centers of what I invested cash wise into those market centers and what those are paying me today,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a ridiculous rate of return. I
Yeah.
mean, ridiculous rate of return. And so, you know, there's just lots of ways to do it. Real estate, the reason we picked real estate is because it was the easiest model that we understood very well, and we could do that. And it
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
for us to go do that. And then we focused on our real estate sales and got as good as we could possibly be with our real estate sales. And we took some of that money and put it aside and started buying investment property. The other thing
Mhm.
is we found a great relationship with a banker. We've had the same banker for how many years?
Gosh, um, 40 years.
We
Wow.
Wow.
would not be where we are financially if it wasn't for that one banker
Mhm.
that we had followed to 3 different banks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, didn't he just recently move or did
Yeah,
some
we just invested we didn't buy part of the bank, but we put a lot of money into his
His new
bank.
bank,
His
yeah,
new
his
bank.
non-compete went away and he did it again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
And
That's
on
incredible.
still in Branson that I was looking at last week, first thing he did is he called me on the phone, "Hey, you need money?"
There you go. That's the kind of banker to have.
Yeah.
Jimmy, and what I loved about that, the simple wealth principle that I heard you share there is you picked a lane, you picked a channel, and you have stayed deep in that lane and channel.
Yeah.
You haven't ventured out too far. You just have literally stayed in that channel and
Linda
just
and I
maybe had a
probably
different,
bought 300 houses or so
yeah.
for our careers.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
you've done the houses, you've done the actual real estate itself from a selling standpoint, team ownership standpoint,
Commercial buildings.
commercial buildings, business ownership inside of real estate. So that's what I heard there is you picked a lane, you went deep, and look at you now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's not too many avenues of real estate that we haven't participated in.
Yeah.
Property
And so-
management.
Yeah,
Yeah.
property management. Yeah.
No.
Just curious, of all the different diversity, if you will, inside of real estate, Jimmy and Linda, what's been your favorite? What's been your favorite to play in the real estate space?
Relationships with the banker and
What investment?
probably buying land and flipping some land pieces. I mean, those were easy deals that we got in the way of we saw an opportunity and we kind of put ourselves in the front of the money portion of it and went in there. And for instance, there was a piece of land that was a 3-acre tract of land that was in an area called Unicorn Lake in Denton, Texas. And we went out and bought that 3-acre tract of land that was foreclosed. The owner was getting foreclosed on. And we bought it, and within 9 months, sold it for $1 million
Wow.
worth of profit.
Wow.
And
That's
I would say
amazing.
mine is recruiting people because I love changing lives. I love
Yeah.
bringing people to a place where they can be an entrepreneur that thrives themselves and they can build their business as big as they want to build it. And just the opportunity to recruit them, to bring them into an opportunity that changed our lives and to be able to change theirs too. So I get the greatest joy from that.
And whenever you're married to a multiplier,
Yeah.
like Dana, you are, Linda, you are, and I think maybe Adam and I are more simplifiers in the fact that, Gary Keller is probably
And
one of
Dan
the,
Sullivan's.
and Dan Sullivan are 2 of the best simplifiers I've ever seen in the marketplace. Linda and Dana can get you and I into more stuff for us to figure out and stuff, but that's work, and
Yeah.
knowing that, I mean, that's kind of the yin and the yang of the opposite
Mhm.
and I, if there is
That is the
the
opposite.
opposites, it's an attraction. But early on with Linda, I saw a spark in her eye, and I saw an ambitious, not trained, educated person on the front end, but somebody that really, really, really had a
Talk
desire
softly here.
back to college, and you were dying to get your college degree.
Mhm.
It was very raw. I did warn them before you came, after you changing your shirt, that we had a real rough morning. We were kind of getting on each other's nerves. Hey, you should know
That is part of it.
That is part of it.
Yeah, that's
But
definitely part of it. Yes.
the difference is we get over it really fast.
Uh-huh.
Move on.
Linda, what I love about what you said there is recruiting people, and I've again for the last 16 plus years watched you put people in the path of success.
Yeah.
Right. I love watching you help people self-discover, and then you putting them in the path of success for them to have their opportunity for success. And that's been really, really fun to watch and actually learn from you to be able to do the similar things. And Jimmy, yeah, maybe you and I should have our own podcast and we can call it Carrying Linda and Dana's Bags. What do we can call it?
Well, I can think of two finer ladies for us to carry their bags.
Okay, this will be last question unless you have another one too. And we didn't ask you this, but what are y'all excited about, like for the next few years, or what's something that you're just excited about for the future? I'm curious.
Well, we're really excited about our remodel that we're doing here in Montana. I mean, we both love projects. I mean, we want to stay busy. So we're always looking for what's something we could make better or, be a big project. So right now it's adding on to our house here in Montana. But also, I'm just excited about growth. I love growth. I'm happy if I'm making progress. And so putting together plans on how do we grow the region, how do we grow the tools that we want to use to help other people understand the importance and the possibilities of having more in their life. I mean, I really think God gives you the journey he gives you so that you can go back and get other people who have the same desire and the same motivation and hunger. And so I think, in the next phase, helping more and more people do that would be exciting for both of us, or at least.
Yeah. And, the industry itself is going through some changes right now.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that what's going to shake out of those changes are going to be very, very exciting of where the industry is going to go in the future and where Keller Williams is going in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just pretty excited with the way that it's really, I'm seeing more inspiration coming from different people right now, coming up with new ideas, new concepts, new things. It almost feels like we're at the that beginning again.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to a girl the other day, and she has an independent company in another state, and she had gone with Real. And by the time I got through talking to her at lunch, she saw kind of a mess in her area for KW. But I had her understanding what opportunity it was. She's like, man, maybe I need to go back and revisit that as an opportunity. So I think as leaders, you see it's the Moe's hummingbird story. You're going to see what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So what are you looking for? I'm looking for all the opportunities that this market is going to uncover, and all the opportunities that unfortunately people who don't fulfill the possibilities of it and they don't do it, that's an opportunity for somebody else to come along and finish that and do it correctly.
Yeah, I
So,
think the people that hang in there
yeah.
and that really want to win and want to, get excited about the ways things could be again,
Yeah.
then I think that's a bright future.
Well, it's kind of like real estate agents. When the market goes down, the market share you take, you'll never lose. Well, it's the same
Right.
thing in any business. This is where wealth is made. It's not made in the up market when everything's great and nobody needs anything. It's made right now.
I mean, I look back at 2007. 90% of the people I talked to, wow, 2007 was a big downturn. It was horrible. We made more money between 2007 and 2012 than we'd ever made in our life.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And
Reminds me of what all of our friend Diana always has said: opportunity is never lost; it's always found by someone.
That's right.
So, I mean, so is it going to be you?
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
so I kind of look at, we're in those times again, guys.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Those times, maybe from a little bit different perspective than 2007, but we're in the time right now where the people that come out there and figure out the opportunities are going to win big, big, big.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I think now is the time to go take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Agreed.
love that. Yeah.
That's good.
Any last parting advice you would give to couples?
Start early.
Yeah.
Get on the journey early as far as your wealth building side and stuff, because
Yeah.
building wealth is not a get rich quick plan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have the opportunity to design your life. You're going to live probably longer than rest of the generations and stuff, and with all the knowledge and everything that's coming out and the health industry and stuff. And so, get
Yeah.
on the path as early as you can, and go in there and try and get you a couple of appreciating assets and try to get those paid off, and then stay on track and keep building, keep growing.
And I
That's
think
good.
run towards things that make you scared and excited. Scared
Mm.
itself's not good. Excited by itself's doesn't do anything great for you. But scared and excited, you
Yeah.
will make good progress. And most people avoid things that take courage. But you got to go make commitments that kind of keep you awake a little bit at night. I mean, that's what we always do, and we always stay excited, and we always stay scared, and we
Yeah.
always moving.
But Dan, was Dan telling you about vision and capabilities?
Oh, I told
Oh,
Dan.
yes.
Yeah.
Share that, Linda. Yeah.
Most people, and I always struggle when people say, well,
Huge.
what's your vision? What's your vision? I don't think I've ever had a vision first. I've had a capability first. And then once I get the capability, the vision will come. So for the people out there, go start building wealth, and you will create a vision around whatever wealth path you pick. But I think we wait for a vision when the truth is, go get the capability, and then you'll find the vision for that capability. But capability comes before vision.
And and it's so true with us. Like I said, we probably bought over and sold and held over 300 homes personally ourselves. But if we wouldn't have sold 200 homes a year every year, where
Right.
it's easy to go do that,
Yeah.
I'm not sure we would have had the vision to go do 300 homes.
Right.
Yeah.
Have 120, rentals or whatever, and so I'm not sure we would have had that vision if we didn't have the capability to go out there and sell a couple of hundred houses a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Really, really
Makes
good.
total sense. Awesome. Well, thank y'all
Thanks,
so
guys.
much.
Yeah.
This has been so great. We're so blessed to have you guys in our lives. We love you.
definitely
And
are.
we're so
We would love
excited
to help you guys
for y'all to be
any way
our-
we possibly could.
Yeah. We love you
Yes.
guys.
Love you guys.